Yes, welcome. I just love starting meetings with some good music to have our energy flowing. Thank you all for being here with us today. Welcome to the Learning Collaborative of Preventing Trafficking of Girls projects. This is our third session of 6. So we're so happy that you all are engaging with us and joining us today for our peer learning session. My name is Karisha Lenore Jean-Baptiste. I go by Lenore, and I am a training and capacity manager under our Liberation Focus area. I've had the privilege of working with some of you all, and I'm new to others because I believe this is my first learning collaborative session where I'm with our team members so this year. So we're just really excited to be here and be in community with you all today. So now, why are we here? Let's jump into some objectives. What's going on today? So you all received the email where we're sharing about our peer learning session. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So go back one. So for today's objectives, we're engaging in peer learning. And the importance of this is really to increase your peer network. So, I love saying this. Slide into each other's DMs, right? You're going to be able to go into a breakout discussion where you're going to hear from other organizations. And as your training capacity manager and one of the things that we found is very critical to this work is really building out your peer network. People in other spaces doing something very similar to what you're doing. This is how we really engage in our work. And this is how we keep our passion because we are a tribe with one another. The purpose also is to identify success of opportunities, some of the things that we're doing amazing, but then also be able to identify some growing areas. Where are some of the things that we could be doing better? And we want to be able to see what are those strategies that we're seeing across the nation. So before we really engage in our peer learning sessions, if you all can please make sure that your names are updated. And the best way to do that is if you go into your little window tab and hover your mouse around that, you'll be able to click on more, rename, and then type in your name, your pronouns, and your organizations so that once we begin having discussions, once we begin building community and conversation, we'll be able to address one another appropriately. So next portion of this is that we want to do some icebreakers, right? Let's get connected. So I'm going to pass this over to Joy Thompson.
Thank you so much, Lenore, and good to be with you all today. I'm Joy. I use she, her pronouns. I serve as the Director of Programs for Liberation, which is the focus area that holds this important work of addressing and preventing exploitation and trafficking, as well as building community, which is the focus area that focuses on mentoring. So I'm always really excited to be in community with youth service providers and people doing amazing work like yourselves. And also I'm situated in Northern California on occupied and unceded Ohlone territory. And what that means to me today is that I get really excited to see seasons changing. So some of you live in places where it's very clearly autumn where you are, and you go outside and you see the leaves changing or the temperature has dropped. And we get a little bit of that here in Northern California, but not a whole lot. So I want to live vicariously through you all. What is something that if you could add in the chat your name, please, your pronouns, and also what is something in your organization, if you like, but what is something that you're looking forward to in the fall, or something that you're currently experiencing in your neck of the woods that's very fall-like. And I will add that what I am kind of enjoying right now is a few of the leaves changing that I can see. And also, spoiler alert, I am a huge pumpkin fan. So I'm up now to 6 pumpkins. So that's one of my favorite fall activities, is collecting different sizes, shapes, and color pumpkins. What are you looking forward to this fall? And please feel free to include your name, and which is already there on your screen. But if you could include your organization and your pronouns, that would be awesome. It's not already on your name tag. Only 6, I know. It's a slow season. And only because I got a bouquet, a little pumpkin bouquet from Trader Joe's, but it went bad quickly. So I'm back down. Mm-hmm. Hi, Helen. Good to see you here in Miami. No fall weather either. A little breezy. Okay. Breeze is nice. Hi, Olivia. Looking at the leaves and warm drinks. Yeah. It's like a nationwide understanding that there's going to be some cider and some cinnamon sticks. Sheila in Boston, more than words. I love to see the leaves changing and wearing sweaters. I know you all have some good leaf changing, beautiful scenic things there in Boston. Hi, Julian. Thank you for being here. The crisp air. I see that's true for you too, Jamila. Crisp weather and the leaves changing. Hi, Tom. Good to see you here in Connecticut. All the fall activities, corn mazes, pumpkin picking, lots of leaves changing colors. Hi, Caitlin. Fall candles. Oh, Halloween movies and cozy blankets with my 4-year-old. That sounds like such a good time. I'm all the way down to like Hotel Transylvania because we watched all of the movies this already. So it's not even Halloween yet. If you have good ideas, please share them, Caitlin. Hey, Martine. Great to see you here. Apple orchards, of course. Fall activities with my daughters. I love that. I love just that energy of the fall as we kind of slow down and get ready for the end of the year and start to get ready for the year to come and hunker down for the colder season. And some of us will experience actual winter. So sending my heart out to you all. Also want to recognize our Girls Action Board members who are here with us today. I think we have Lauren and Martine, Deja, who is our GAB lead. Want to be sure that I'm not missing anybody. Thank you all for being here. And also Jamila Furch, our therapeutic consultative support, who is also here in the space with us. So thank you all for being here. And as Lenore mentioned, one of the real benefits of this learning collaborative is bringing people together from across the nation, across different types of program models and structures. Hey, Michaela, welcome, also a GAB member. For an opportunity to connect with one another. So there's plenty of TA that we can provide, plenty of evidence-based practices, but from personal experience as a grantee, it is really invaluable to be able to connect with people outside of our network that we already have, outside of our regions, to build our expertise in service of the youth that we are working with and hoping to work alongside in co-creating the communities that we know our young people deserve. So with that in mind, we are going to spend some time together speaking to one another. We're going to go into breakout rooms and walk through some discussion questions so that you all can hear from each other. We'll spend 30 minutes in breakout with discussion questions. And in the breakouts, we are going to discuss everything from equitable approaches to service delivery, youth and survivor engagement, mitigating burnout, and collaboration and partnerships. So we'll be in there for about 30 minutes, and then we'll come out of that space to have a larger group discussion around the themes so that people can really hear from each other. So with that, Benita, thank you also for being here. Feel free to jump into the room that Benita has so kindly set up for us, and we will see you in the breakouts.
All right, everyone. Hello and welcome back to the main room. I know we were in one group, we were just getting started on our questions in our segment around burnout. So we want to jump into that portion. Does that sound good, Joy?
Yeah, let's do it. We had not gotten to burnout yet. We were living in all of the amazing content around youth and survivor engagement ahead of that. So let's jump into burnout. It's perfect.
Definitely. So we're now in a larger group. This is very critical to us because we are very conscious of all the things we've all experienced as mankind, especially coming from a pandemic, and then just the work that we do in nature. So we wanted to really dig deep into burnout. And I know I got to hear a couple of you all's thoughts. If we didn't get to share in our group, share here. If you want to share again, we'd love to hear it. So the question we have is, what has the impact of burnout and or turnover been on service delivery in your organizations? What has that impact? What does the work feel like because of those things?
I would say that, I mean, in a way, like our service deliveries still have to happen because we're contracted. So we work, with children in foster care. So certain things still have to happen, but I think the quality of service goes down. We've had a lot of new hires as of recently. So it's a lot of new people to train. So there's only certain people that, can truly be independent in the work that they do. And I think our agency is really leaning on those workers. So they're more likely to burn out. They're more likely to be spread thin. And yeah, is the basic job being done? Sure. But we're not able to go, to the deeper level or above and beyond. It's more, like, all right, is this, and this done? Okay, great. Let's, move on to the next one. When some of my favorite parts of the job is really getting to, spend some time or saying like, hey, let's have an outing. Like, let's just go out and get a milkshake together and really try to connect. And establish a little bit more of a deeper bond, which you can't really do when we're just talking about staffing or you're just trying to make sure you do your visits for the week. It can definitely be a challenge as to the quality of our time spent with our clients.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to add to what Olivia was saying, because for sure, I think empathy is impacted when we're burnt out, which is that compassion fatigue of just caring and wanting to help, and then kind of empathy goes away because that requires a whole nother muscle. And if I'm tired, it's hard to kind of give that extra care and that extra love. I think which is huge, and I don't think we always look at it as much, but trust decreases with the individuals that we serve, because a lot of the times the individuals that come into these spaces are already dealing with trust, right? Someone not being there, someone being there, someone, just all of those things. So when we're burnt out and then there's staff turnover, now the individuals that we serve are struggling with more trust and walls go up, right? When I've built the rapport with myself, or, if I'm a client, and then I leave, right? And then what does that look like, right? Now the new person coming in has to regain that trust all over again. So I definitely would say empathy and trust kind of go out the window when burnout happens and turnover.
Yeah. And that, I mean, in what you're talking about, Jamila, if I'm following you correctly, is that if the staff transitions out and that another staff person has to make the bridge again, that young person might not be there anymore. Like, they may not see the value of starting that relationship all over again. And then what we've done is we have possibly created more of a window for more exploitation, trafficking, other violence to happen. And so that's a very serious thing. And we've seen so much turnover among many of the organizations that we've had a chance to work with over the last couple of years for many different reasons. And so we know that the impact on the folks that we're servicing, the community that we're working alongside, that we don't even know yet what that full impact is going to be. But I appreciate you framing it in that way. Any other impacts for burnout or turnover on service delivery? If not, let's move into the successful strategies you have used to challenge those. So what are some of the mitigation practices, some of the things that you have done either individually or as an organization to navigate burnout and turnover?
I think for our organization, we really focus a lot on self-care. We have, like, just speaking from my team, I'm on the youth development team, and just as a team in general, like checking in with each other. And if like one of us, we know each other, so we can tell when one of us is off, and just kind of being open to having those conversations of, you actually do have like time, utilize your time off. Because if you can't come in fully yourself because you're stressed out, because mental health things are going on, then you can't be as supportive to the young people. So we try and stress really a lot to make sure like we're utilizing the time that we actually have and being able to like, you know, take care of ourselves, take some time off, recharge, and come back so that we can be there fully 100% for our young people.
If anybody has found the magic answer to burnout, please let me know. I'd love to know. But I'll just say a little bit more, Joy, though, about the question. You know, it has been really, just going back a little bit, it's been challenging. And I mentioned this in the breakout session, but I wanted to share it here, is that, you know, we got this award in 2020 in the middle of the pandemic. And, you know, everything that we thought and had planned out, you know, for this 3-year grant, it's like it went completely left. And so, you know, as a leader, you know, as a director, you know, of the programs here, it's very nerve-wracking thinking, oh my God, you know, we're not as successful as we thought we were going to be by now. Like, you know, what's going to happen in the next year cycle? Are we still going to be considered? Like, those things are always real concerns for us, being that we had to do such a big pivot, you know, due to the pandemic. In addition to that, staffing, of course, has been a huge challenge. You know, I've been working in the industry, in this career field for over 20 years, and I've never had to experience what has happened in the last 3 years, as I know nobody else has. But some of the things, on a lighter note, some of the things that we have done as an agency to help our team is, you know, we're doing a lot of team building with our staff. You know, I take the opportunity that during staff meetings, you know, the same way I would do when I facilitate programming with the girls, you know, I do staff check-ins, right? So I ask everyone, like, how are you doing? You know, how are you feeling? We do meditations during our staff meetings, and we do a lot of more team building activities together, like games, to make it actually fun.
That's so awesome. And I can feel, I was about to say, Jamila's about to unmute. Go for it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's awesome. And what I hear across the board is an intentionality. We have to just be intentional about taking care of ourselves, because the work that we do is not easy. And it's hard, and it comes with a lot of different things, right? Vicarious trauma is a real thing. Compassion fatigue is a real thing. Our real lives are real things, you know, and we're just trying to balance and navigate all those things. And I think the biggest thing is just being super intentional and self-aware, right? We have to even check ourselves sometimes and say, you know what, that PTO that I was granted, let me go ahead and take that. You know, I need some time away and just kind of navigate through my life and my world and my self-care and getting rest. Again, going back to intentionality, it's being mindful that we can make changes and we can change the world and we can help our youth in the best way that, you know, we have the tools to do, but we can't do it overnight, right? And it's going to take time. So patience, even within ourselves, because we can get excited and we want to do it all and let's go. And then 6 months later, we're like, oh my God, Indeed, you know, .com, let me start searching because I'm tired, you know. So I think it's just being intentional. It's taking the time, utilize your time off. I'm a big advocate of time. I think the older you get, the more you realize how precious time is, and my time is my time. You know, so if you get off at 5, sometimes we have to set that hard boundary with ourselves and say, all right, 5 o'clock is here. Let me go recharge. Let me spend time in my real life and then come back in and do this amazing work. So yeah, and boundaries. I think boundaries are also very, very important, not only with ourselves, but also with the youth that we serve. One of the things that I learned as a therapist in group therapy, one of the things they talk about is that we need to mirror healthy behaviors. So it's not just in group therapy, but even as we work with our youth and work with the people that we serve, we have to mirror healthy behaviors. Boundaries are healthy, right? So if my on-call time is at this time and on this day, I have to honor that, not because I'm just being a butt, but it's really because I'm just honoring my boundaries, right? And I want to project healthy behavior, you know, externally. So yeah, I mean, there's no magic answer. I think someone asked that. If I had it, I would be a millionaire, and I'm not. So I don't have it. But I think, again, it's just about being intentional. It's about being intentional. It's about being patient with our process. And 1 week away is not gonna hurt anything, hopefully. And then I think also, Sheila mentioned, having that community within your coworkers. I think that's really, really huge. It's building that community within the organization as coworkers. Because if I am slipping, I need someone to catch me. If I don't have it and can't do it, I want to feel comfortable to be able to say, hey, Joy, I have this thing. Can you just like do this for me, today? And I think that's one thing that's super important when it comes to burnout. But yeah, self-awareness is also very important.
Thank you, Jamila. And I see your hand, Lauren, but I just want to touch on something that you all are saying and name it as a move away from self-care to collective care. And because that's what it takes. Like I could self-care all I want to, but what about the rest of us, right? It takes more than me to care for myself in this work. It takes a community, it takes a village. And so kind of knowing your community and your village I appreciate what you were saying, Sheila, around saying, checking in. I think it was Helen said, checking in with people and asking how they were doing. And Sheila was saying, kind of talking about that PTO and time off. And just like you're saying, Jamila, your community. So how do we move beyond the burden of, oh, I must only take care of myself? So what is our individual role? And what is the role of my organization and my well-being and self-care? It came up in our group around policies, like the policies that need to shift. So how do we build these in at the start of our projects, at the beginning of this work, that in order to sustain, in order to responsibly do the work, we have to be present. And what do we need in order to be present? We need our wellness, and we need our community, and we need spaces for relationships and not just transactional work. Because I'm not sure if it was Olivia who said, like, the things get done, but the way they get done changes, and how we're able to show up for people changes. So I just wanted to uplift that as a theme that's coming from the work.
Yeah, just to go back onto what Ms. Jamila said, I think before you said that, it's crazy, but what I've realized throughout the year or so that I've been with Youth Collaboratory, it's been an experience, but what I realized in my role, God gives us roles. I'm sorry, I'll speak on that. God gives us all roles in this world to do what we're supposed to be doing. We all have a specific, unique gift and purpose on this planet, and I know mine. As far as, you said, if someone please give me the anecdote or the answer for what is it called, self-care or not to burnout, right? Well, if I had the answer, I'd be a millionaire. That's exactly right, because there are millionaires who figured it out, and so when I see myself and the mentors I have outside of this organization, and Youth Collaboratory provides amazing mentorship, provides amazing knowledge on policy and all the, tidbits and smart things. I'm not a reader. I'm a listener and a seer, and I observe. So reading's never been my thing, but I love that Youth Collaboratory pushes me to do that more. However, with burnout and learning that stuff, if you need a rest, you need to just rest. Going into this work and wanting miraculous things to become a multimillionaire or a billionaire and be able to make impact at large and see millions of lives, impacted from that, it takes a lot of, like you said, persistence and filling your cup every single day. As far as, how to not burn out, also, when you step into this space, I like to think of myself as not really, all of the group therapies and the team, discussions and coming together and having, those moments of vulnerability is really good and healthy for the organization as a whole. But as far as when you step into this work, like if you're on the front line helping people, they really don't need you to, they need you to be vulnerable towards them and empathetic towards them. They need you to kind of be their warrior, be their leader, their guider, their mentor, right? So any self-care that you're really doing has to be done outside of that window. When you're in this space, you kind of have to put your arm on and just do it. Like Nike, you just have to do it. That might be corny, but they did it, So when you come into this space, say, if I had the answer for burnout, I'd be a millionaire. That's exactly right. Because there are people, tons of people who are millionaires who figured it out, I'm pretty sure. So that's my little tidbit on that. I kind of forgot some other things I was going to say when I raised my hand at first, but it's okay.
Thank you so much for that, Lauren. Actually, that is one of my favorite quotes. Just do it, right? So we're like, well, how do I self-care? How do I make time to, take care of my community or all the things, right? Just do it. Just really prioritize your wellness and your community. So thank you for sharing that. So the last question that we want to share and hear from you all, and I think this is very critical, because when I jumped into this work, conversations like self-care wasn't a thing. It wasn't, we all seen that it's becoming more and more normalized in our community. I mean, even just therapy, when we're talking about just even people of color engaging in these spaces, right? So I want us to be very transparent. What training is critical to your work that isn't offered right now? Like if you can think a couple of years ahead, what would we need now that doesn't really exist in the spaces that we're in? So I'll say it one more time. What training is critical to your work that isn't offered?
I would jump in and say like conflict resolution or just mediation. Oftentimes I feel like things that are very important that can get us to the root of being able to resolve and better support our organization as well as the people that we work with gets brushed under the rug because people do not know how to start those conversations that can easily really have a positive impact on what we're doing because they're so uncomfortable to have. But like the work most of us do is already uncomfortable. So it's just always baffling to me that people still are not able to have uncomfortable conversations when they will be beneficial.
I like that. I love hearing that. What else? What are some?
I think this kind of sounds similar to what she just said, which is that effective communication and how to work with difficult people. That's a big one, and I see a lot of nods because I don't think it's ironic that people that have experienced trauma themselves come to this field, right? To work in this field. But what has happened is that they have so much unresolved trauma within themselves that although they may be really great, at working with the youth, at, facilitating program, but then there's this other aspect, which is working with your peers, right? And dealing with difficult situations. So I think that that's a big one that I keep seeing with just like, staff in general.
Thank you for that, Helen. You know what comes up for me? We question like, how do we work with difficult people? And I wonder sometimes, do we know when we're the difficult person, right? When we're like engaging. So there's that piece of like boundaries, but I think that we need more training on how to honor others' boundaries, right? Like when you're working with other individuals and they do have their boundaries, what does it look like for us to honor that? Who else? Feel free to unmute.
I wanted to say, I work at NISI in Oakland, California. So we always talk about, we can tell where people are in their own healing journey via how they work with their coworkers, right? We do difficult work. It's a difficult job. And understanding that is most people get it, but due to their own trauma, like you take your trauma with you and it shows. Sometimes we have staff where like their cup gets too full, bringing their own trauma as well as dealing with client trauma. So we try to offer safe spaces. We have an EAP so they can have someone to talk to. But I like to say, because this is such a specialized field, we're like police officers and firefighters. No one really understands the work that you do unless they've done the work. Right? No one understands the things that you see and hear, and you end up relying on your coworkers due to that, because they understand better than someone who's a case manager at a place where everyone is fully functional. they don't really get what you're going through. They get some of it, but not all of it. So because of that, we do a lot of trainings around trauma and how it shows up in us as individuals, especially as women and women of color. And we focus on that and focus on a lot of team building and building relationships, because that relationship with your coworkers will get you through when other things won't. And I'm sorry, my camera's not on. We have really bad internet, and if I turn it on, it might drop me. So.
Thank you for that. Yes.
I just have to say, I think as a therapist, I'm a little bit partial to what I'm hearing, but I think this is amazing, because what I hear is for me, not necessarily trainings, but what I feel like is important, especially in these spaces, is having like a therapist on staff, right? Where it's having that accessibility. Because I love EAP. I think EAP is great. I'm glad that they're incorporating that into a lot of corporations. But that's a process, you know, and a lot of the time when we're in our feelings, or we're triggered, or we're experiencing our own traumas or some vicarious trauma or our own healed self, that just seems so far away, right? To try to contact them, make the appointment, drive there, get there, and then do the work, when I don't even know if I want to do the work or feel that there is a need to do the work. But having that on staff where it's almost embedded into your job description, right? To meet with, to be a part of, to have these groups, to have these individual times. And it's not mandatory, but it's just, hey, once a week, check in. Right. And if it's just venting, you know, about the work that you're doing, I think that would also be helpful, because I think to come into these spaces and do the work that we do, exactly what I think someone on the screen said, I'm not quite sure, but exactly what they said, we're not here on, it's not an accident that we're in this work. Either it's lived experiences or just really the heart and the compassion because of familiarity some way or another. So a lot of the times when we're with youth or with other individuals, we're writing parallel, right? Somehow we're parallel into those experiences, and we can become re-triggered. So I think that is definitely important to do that self-work. You know, in ideal world, it's all of us would have a therapist, even the therapist has a therapist. But I think in the ideal world, we would all have one, but that's just not the reality for a whole host of reasons. But knowing that an agency says, hey, we have this for you. We understand this is hard work. We value you. We want to keep you. We want to make sure that you're doing the work and not just the checks and balances that I think kind of Olivia kind of mentioned. We want you here, and we value you, and we value the work that you're doing. So this is what we have to offer. I think that would be super important. So it would be more of a policy change than a training.
Can I just comment on that too, Jamila? Like, as you were talking, I'm like, man, that just needs to be implemented throughout. Like, even when you have youth and young adults, like asking them to be engaged and having some type of therapeutic consultant even there for them, especially because a lot of them are coming from the lived expertise that they're from your organization. So even then having that policy throughout. So I was just like, yes, we need that ASAP. So thank you for that.
Yes, and I see we have some conversations happening in our chat. Amari shared having others understand cultural norms, what to say and not to say in sensitive situations or any confrontation for that matter, especially since my organization advocates for mostly Black and Brown youth. So yeah, that is critical, right? Of how are we talking to one another? What does it look like in those sensitive conversations? Before we go on, is there anyone else that would like to share what are some trainings that we would like to see more of that doesn't exist or we don't see enough of?
I just wanted to share one last thing. This kind of just dropped in my spirit as I was reading the comments, but I think some trainings on unconscious biases, I think will be helpful across organizations, like just trainings from the very beginning. This is a very new term that's being used, and it's becoming more popularized, where people are now becoming more aware of the term. How do they implement that into their own lives and some of that self-work? But yeah, I mean, I think if we're coming into spaces and there's cultures that are just totally different from ours, I think it's just important that we have those trainings on just what our unconscious bias, what our mind, maybe I can do some self-reflection from that training. So I'm not doing a disservice to the youth because of things that I didn't even know that I think about. So I think that also would be helpful.
That's a good one, Jamila. Thank you all so much. Did we have someone unmute? Okay, thank you all so much for engaging in today's conversation. This is critical to the work, right? How do we take care of ourselves, one another? What are some of those pieces or those things that we know may be missing in our work? How are we centering equity? How are we centering survivor voice, youth engagement? These are all the things that we are here to provide you all with TA for. So please feel free to jump over to youthcollaboratory.org, and we have a plethora of resources, and also reach out to us if you want to continue today's discussion and do a deeper dive. We would love to be able to be in community with you all further. So coming up, something that we want to share with you all, if we haven't already, is our culture as a protective factor, right? Because we understand the beauties of culture and how that can really just enhance our identities and our self-care and how we feel about ourselves. Youth Collaboratory and our partners at the Center for Core Innovation are seeking input from individuals working with the anti-trafficking movement and adjacent fields. So these are everyone's on this call to share how your program recognizes culture to support participants in their healing and growth journeys. For this survey specifically right now, we are looking for participants that identify with Black, Afro, African, female identities. So if that's not you, but you have a coworker that may fall into one of those identities, please feel free to share this survey with them. We want to get as many participants as possible so that we can start having those deeper conversations of, now that we understand equity, now that we are making space for culture, how do we use this as a driving force and a protective factor for the young people that we are of service to? Lastly, we have our evaluation link that is going to be in the chat box. Please complete our evaluation. We understand how time is of the essence. We understand how you all are such busy people. So thank you so much for being on today's Learning Collaborative. We will be sending out emails on more collaborative sessions. We have 3 remaining. That's going to begin again next year. So we look forward to being in space and community with you all. Fill out that evaluation link and take care of yourselves and each other. Thank you all for being with us today. Bye.